So I spend a lot of time thinking about the idea, like my ideas, and that's mainly because I feel like the thing about ideas is they're in your head, and so if you don't do anything with them, they're still in your head, so how do you not think about them all the time? And I literally imagine my head as sort of this orphanage, and the ideas in my head, these like sad little orphans, the ones that I don't use. So like if I don't use them for long enough, they're these sad orphans. And like the ones that have been there for a long time, they show new ideas around. They show them the chore wheel on the refrigerator, and they teach them how to sing and dance, because like no orphan in my head doesn't sing and dance. Basically, my head is a 1980s movie version of Annie. This is her on the window looking out longingly, and that's what I imagine my ideas doing, just like gazing out and wondering why no one has come to like let them free into the world. And this is like that one on the corner over there. That's an idea. That's an unfinished novel I started writing in the 5th grade. And this one with her little thing, that was like, I had this idea for a biopic about John Cazale, who played Fredo in Godfather, which I think is still a brilliant idea. And the one in the middle with the shoe, that's Kickstarter. I thought of it first, but then I never had it come out into the world, and so now it's stuck like doing a little song and dance. So I'm gonna just like run with the Annie theme, because I was doing research and I realized that Annie songs apply to every single thing. I'm not gonna write a book about it, but it fits the purposes. And so I think I'm gonna like it here is when Annie goes and realizes that she suddenly has a home. And that's like very much how I felt when I started working for This American Life. I was actually in college when I first was on the show. I went to NYU, and I had this elderly vigilante who lived next door to me, this woman who was convinced I was a drug kingpin. She thought I was running the drug operation for the entire village, and she tried to frame me, and she would put up these signs all around my building, and it became like this major obsession, and I made a documentary about her. And This American Life, this was like the 2nd year This American Life existed, and they heard about it. They called me up, and they sent one of the founding producers, this man named Paul Tuff, to me to come do the story. And like literally Paul walked into my apartment, and we talked for 5 minutes, and I was like, I've discovered what I want to do with the rest of my life. How do I do it? What do I do? And we even went out for drinks like that summer, and he asked me to write down what I was supposed to do in 5 years, and I had to lie and say I didn't know, because all I was thinking was, I'm just gonna be you, and this is my plan, and whatever I can do to be you. And then I kind of like studied everything he'd written and listened to every episode of the show. There weren't that many back then. And I applied to be an intern. I became an intern, and then I was a producer within 2 years. And so it's always like people ask me a lot about like how to get on This American Life or what it takes, and I'm always like, it's kind of hard to say sometimes. Like I was then in charge of picking interns who applied for the show, and there's like a massive stack of people who apply, and they often would say that they grew up in an NPR listening family, and like the radio would like waft through the kitchen, and I never heard NPR in my entire life before I was on it. All I know is that there was something about meeting everyone there that felt so instinctually right, and I feel like that is the best advice I can give in that area. If you find something that you know you feel like you belong to, like do whatever you can to become a groupie and a fan, and then become a critic, because I feel like it's not going to be enough if you just worship the thing. You have to like get to know it, and then kind of like understand what you don't like about it too. And it's really weird, because a lot of the interns who apply, or people who pitch me stories, people will say, I love this show so much, it's the greatest thing, and then they'll pitch me a thing that they think works, and it's often not anything that sounds like it would be on the show. And the interns tend to like pitch a lot of stories about hobos. There's like a whole hobo thing, to the point where I would like, if I saw the word hobo, I would it would just automatically be no. It would just be in this other stack, and I had like a special like hobo circling pen. And I think there was something about like American Life that it's like they listened to the show, and then they got so stressed and was like, what is American Life? It's obviously hobos jumping off trains and into cars. And like, I just kind of always want people to relax and understand that the whole point is that your own life can be really interesting. And what I like about the creation of the show is that the whole show was it's an idea that Ira had. Like it is just, he thought of an idea, he wanted to do a show about people telling stories, and he made that happen. And as a result, everyone who works at the show is a very idea-oriented person. Like it's a kind of workplace where it seems weird when ideas don't happen, especially because radio is so easy to do and it's so cheap. And like it just kind of, you couldn't walk, like somebody would be on the show, like my friend Davey was on the show, and then he like found a note on his windshield of his car and decided he wanted to turn it into a magazine, and now it's a magazine that's been going on for 10 years. Or like Alex Bloomberg was really interested in money, and suddenly he started a radio show called Planet Money. Like it was impossible to keep ideas in. And we even have, This American Life, the way it works is there's a story list that we have with all the themes, and every week we have meetings and you go over the ideas. And we even have a part that's kind of like the orphanage in my mind at the top that is ideas that have been on there for like 15 years at this point, some of them. And like we're so afraid, we like value so much like a good idea, and like they don't always have the right home yet, but we will keep it on the list, and it will never go off until we find a place for it. And even now, if I'm not working on a show, I'll hear a show and it'll be like an idea that suddenly finally came out, and it's like an angel got its wings or something. This is the ongoing lesson. Because I've worked on the show since college, I kind of feel like one of the Olsen twins or something, where I don't even know what my emotional development would be if I hadn't been there. And I've done so, I don't know what it's like to like kind of live my life without thinking about it in terms of storytelling or putting it on the show. And it's like really therapeutic because I can constantly like work. Like my parents got divorced, and I'd never asked, they had a horrible marriage, and I never asked my dad why they stayed married until I taped him. And so there's on the radio me asking my dad for the first time in my entire life. And like it would not have come up, or I would not have done that if it hadn't been for the show. And so This American Life has different kinds of stories. We have the kind of story that is so insane and crazy, it's like the craziest story you've ever had happen in your life, and somehow you find us and we do it as a radio show. But then there's other kind of episodes that are just conceptual. They're just ideas that come out of thin air and exist out of sheer force of will. Sheer force of will is a big phrase that we like to do at the show. Like we think it's this big effort to get the idea out into the thing. And like we did an episode called Classified, where every story was based on a classified ad in a Chicago paper. Like that was an idea-based episode. And then idea-based stories are actually my favorite because I feel like so proud to like that it's just this thought that came from my head that actually makes it into this radio waves. And so a few years ago, I went through a bad breakup, and I decided to do a story about that.
It was hands down the corniest relationship I've ever been in. And by corniest, I mean greatest. We'd pass entire evenings just complimenting each other. We took hand-holding to new heights. And we listened to hours and hours of music, teenager style, playing one song after another while smiling a lot. I don't quite remember how our Phil Collins phase began. I think it was one of those things that started off ironically, with Anthony lip-syncing, adorably, to Against All Odds one night. But over time, it became less and less ironic, until one day we were actual fans.
How can I just let you walk away? Just let you leave without a trace. When I stand here taking every breath with you. Ooh.
Anthony broke up with me on New Year's Eve. I told you, corny. I didn't really see it coming, and I definitely didn't want it to happen. He said, "You're going to be okay." I just cried and cried. I wanted to stop it, to fix it. I searched deep inside myself for the right words to say, and out of my mouth popped this. "How can you just let me walk away? I'm the only one who really knew you at all." And I meant it. In fact, I go so far as to say that in that moment, no one could have conveyed how I was feeling better than Phil Collins. If I thought I'd been in a Phil Collins phase before, it was nothing compared to what came next. I was no longer listening to his songs for pleasure, but for pain. They were breakup songs, and hearing them was the only thing that made me feel better. And by better, I mean worse. There's something so satisfying about listening to sad songs. They're like how you would actually be spending your day if you were allowed to just break down and sob and grab hold of everyone you met. They make you feel less alone with your crazy thoughts. They don't judge you. In fact, they understand you. A breakup song won't ever suggest you start online dating or that you're better off without him. They tell you that you're worse without him, which is exactly what you want to hear because it's how you feel. I didn't want to be cheered up. I didn't want to bounce back. I didn't want to meet someone new. I wanted to wallow, big time, deeply, and with the least amount of perspective possible. And the only way to do that was by turning off my phone and turning up the sad, sad music.
Thank you. So that story, originally, I had this idea one day, literally while listening to the sad music, like 2 months in. And like, that's all I was doing. And I remember just being like, I have to do something about this pain. I have to do something. And then suddenly, it was 3 a.m, and I had the idea, I have to write a breakup song. And it was one of these ideas that you're just like, that's it. And I was so sure of it, and I wanted to keep it alive so badly. And it felt so impossible because I don't know how to play any instruments or anything musically at all. Like, I gave up every instrument I ever did as a kid. I never got past anything. I don't know how, like, I don't understand music. It's magic to me, but I knew I had to do the story. I knew it. And so then I signed up for a songwriting class at NYU Extensions or night school or something. And I was like, that's it. I'm just going to learn how to write the song at this random class. And I went, and it was this terrible class. And all the teacher did was talk about how he once met Bruce Springsteen backstage. And he would just like send us emails with a picture of Bruce Springsteen and talk about Bruce Springsteen's song. We didn't learn anything about songwriting. We didn't learn anything about music. I don't think he even spoke to me. And I felt so dejected. That's why it's like, the whole thing with like ideas on your own is you will fall and they won't always work out at first. And I remember it was like, you know that scene in Reservoir Dogs where Harvey Keitel's driving Tim Roth to the hospital and he's like, you're not gonna die. Like, I just wanted to keep my ideas so badly alive, but I didn't know how. And I was just like, it has to, and I didn't want to give up on it. And so then I like called the show and I was like, we have to like think of something different. The songwriting class is not working, but I need someone to advise me. Like, the whole point was I had to like get an actual musician who was not obsessed with his one encounter with Bruce Springsteen to help me. And so This American Life and I had all these meetings. They totally liked the idea. And then it turned out that what happened was much better than going to my songwriting class, because I ended up getting Phil Collins's email and writing him the saddest email of all time and being like, will you just talk to me and help me, and I need to get through this. And he wrote me back and said, sure.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Starlee. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great. In my mind, he was already so intimately involved in my breakup that it seemed crazy that he didn't actually know about it. So I told him. Well, I'm gonna tell you the whole story of my breakup and stuff. Okay, is that okay?
Yeah, it's your 45 minutes.
Okay. Well, it also involves you, because so I was dating my boyfriend Anthony, and he kind of broke up with me on New Year's Eve.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Whereas before it was Anthony and I talking about Phil. Now it was Phil and I talking about Anthony. Actually, pretty tidy when you think about it. And at one point, I turned to him, and it just flew out of my mouth. I just looked at him, and I was like, I can't believe you're just gonna let me
walk away.
Yeah.
So obviously that worked out better, and that was a really, really good lesson about I'm so prone to negative thinking and giving up, and it worked out obviously the best I could ever do. I think it helped Phil too. We go on to talk about his heartbreak, and we commiserate with each other. I play him my song. He says he likes it. I did write the song, so it all was great, other than my heart getting stomped. So that I felt like was incredibly, incredibly valuable. And from now on, I guess I'm never going to sign up for a night school class again, but I feel like I will take that lesson on. Okay, so the other thing is about ideas is, it's very lonely. It's very lonely just being alone in your thoughts. And radio is the least tangible thing of all time. It is wonderful that it exists on the air, but I don't have anything. I can't hang it up. I can't do anything with it. I can only play it sometimes for like a captive audience. Like people just don't let me like turn it on when they come into my house. And so I'm really into collaboration. I really think it's really important. And my rule when I collaborate is I like to collaborate with people who can make something that I can then have in my house somewhere to show off. Like I like to like be able to have it. And so a friend and I, this is a Post-it note. A friend and I, I'm a friend from Chicago. He is an illustrator, and we did a whole series called the Post-it note reading series, which was, it's different writers who read their stories. And the whole thing about readings, we always found that people can kind of it gets a little boring listening to reading. And so we wanted to give a visual. And so while the writer reads, there's a series of Post-it notes. It's kind of like a storyboard behind them. And Arthur got the idea because he was doing a temp job, and he would doodle on his Post-it notes during work and make rats out of duct tape and stuff like that. And so we were trying to turn the worst parts of menial labor into something creative. And then this is something called The Thing, which is an art project out of San Francisco, and basically you pay. You subscribe to it, and 4 times a year you get a mystery piece of art in the mail, and it comes in these custom designed boxes. There was one of them's a doorstop, and the box is shaped like a wedge. And I just like this so much because I subscribed from the very first issue, and then the second issue I wrote to them, and I was like, I need something, please, I'm so lonely, I need to work with someone who I don't know, can I do something? And they said, sure, and we worked on it for 2 years, this is object. The thing is always supposed to be a household object that you get, and if you do one of the issues, they will mass produce the object for you. So my issue is a cutting board, but it's a cutting board that's about heartbreak, because I'm very theme-oriented, and so the cutting board is supposed to be when you are in those, after a breakup, or it can be a fight with a friend, somebody you cooked a lot with in your kitchen, when there's this absence and it's all haunted by the memories of the meals that you cooked. You're supposed to use this cutting board and cut into it to erase the ghosts. And it comes with these instructions on how to cry while using it. And I recommend you use an onion, you cut an onion, make it cathartic. And so this is the whole thing, and I'm very, very, very proud of this. And it's real, and I have one in my house, and I can use it. I've tried to cut onions on CDs of stories. It doesn't work nearly as well. And then my final thing is, think about when you're doing stories on your own. I find fake deadlines don't work very well. I know there's some people who have their lists in the morning and they wake up and they can do their emails and not turn the internet on or something in the morning. I can't do any of that. I need real deadlines, and I find it very helpful. And so often I will sign up for things that I have no material for and force myself to actually figure something out in order to do it. And I think everyone can do it in some way. I really advise scaring yourself, because fear is a great motivator. And like this kind of conference, I didn't know what I was going to do, and then you sign up and you do it, and you it stimulates your brain so much, and if you can do it in front of a crowd in some way, even if you can do it with your family, if there's some sort of stakes involved where you're going to feel humiliated if you don't come through, I really recommend it, because it's very, very important. I've decided to kind of kickstart this idea. I would like to give you guys an assignment. And you don't have to do it, but you'll know that every time you hear my voice, you're going to feel guilty, so you might as well do it. And I'm on the radio fairly often, and I plan to get really famous, so you're going to feel terrible if you don't do this. So all I want you to do is if you know your idea in your mind, if there's an idea like a little orphan in there, all you have to do is write it down somewhere, and not on your computer. It's got to be on an actual piece of paper or a tree bark or on a window or something. Just write it in the physical world so you have it, and then it's just kind of you didn't adopt the orphan. It's like foster care. The paperwork is in motion. And so I really feel if you have it out there, and then you can give it to someone, or you can keep it or do whatever you want with it. But I think that first step is very vital. So humor me. Thank you.